Hello everyone, I'm Liza. My story revolves around my husband, who tried to leave me because I wasn't wealthy enough for him. You might be wondering why. Well, it's not because I suddenly lost my job or made any financial blunders. It's simply that I never went to college, so I didn't have a high-paying job. I had a decent income, and my husband Rick knew this from the start. I never hid anything from him. Rick, on the other hand, had a high income but was burdened with student loans from college. So our lifestyles were actually quite similar. Initially, Rick didn't see this as a problem, and our relationship progressed smoothly until we decided to get married. Just before the wedding, Rick asked for a prenup. He said that given his high-paying job, he feared being used for his money and didn't want me to be burdened with his loans. I felt a bit disrespected by his lack of trust, but I agreed to the prenup, and thank God I did. It saved me later. Our marital troubles began when we lost our place to live. Our landlord informed us he was selling the house, with the housing market in our city being terrible. We had no choice but to move in with Rick's mother, Natalie. Now let me clarify, my husband is the main issue here. Natalie was a cold woman who didn't care much about me, but she wasn't one of those nasty mother-in-laws you hear about. She was just annoyed to host us for free, which sometimes made her behavior a bit difficult, but we managed. After moving in with Natalie, Rick began resenting the fact that I couldn't contribute to buying a house. Because of his student loans, he couldn't qualify for a mortgage, and I didn't have enough for a down payment. We were stuck in a tough spot with limited housing options. Despite this, we had a decent life until Natalie dropped a bombshell on us. One day, she told us we needed to find other accommodations because she could no longer keep up with her mortgage payments and had decided to sell the house. "Why, Mom? What's the problem?" Rick asked. "I can't keep up with my mortgage payments anymore, so I have to sell the house," she explained. "You need to find another place to live." "But we have nowhere to go, Mom. We can't afford rent with the money we have," Rick pleaded. "That's not my problem, Rick. Since you two can't help me with the mortgage, I have to sell. I'm giving you plenty of time to come up with a solution." Natalie left us to fend for ourselves, saying we didn't need to move out immediately but would need to once she found a buyer. Rick and I were panicking about our housing situation. That night, he lashed out at me, blaming me for our troubles. "Why can't you get a better job? You earn so little." "It's not enough for us," he said. "What can I do, Rick?" "I don't have a college degree, so this is the best I can do," I replied. "You don't even have enough savings for a down payment on a house. If you weren't so lazy, you could have worked 2 jobs and saved the money." "I can't work 2 jobs, Rick. I have to handle everything around the house because you don't help." "It's not my job to help, Liza. We have a roof over our heads because of me, and now even that will be gone. I don't know what I was thinking when I married you." Rick's words cut deep, and I started to cry. We had a big fight but calmed down the next day. I knew he was stressed, so I set aside my own emotions and started forming a plan. I had a small investment I could cash out to provide a down payment on a house. After talking to some friends, I found out I could qualify for a mortgage. Once I realized that, I began to form a plan. I decided to buy Natalie's house. I discovered her asking price and realized I could afford the mortgage. Despite my inexperience, I was confident in my finances and decided to approach Natalie with an offer. I contacted her agent and set up a meeting, wanting to surprise Rick, so I didn't tell Natalie directly. At the cafe, Natalie was surprised to see me. "Hey, Liza. What are you doing here?" "I'm here to meet an interested buyer for my house." "Yes, I know that, Natalie. I am your interested buyer." "Wait, what?" she asked, looking at me like I had grown 2 heads. "You want to buy my house?" "Yes, I do," I replied calmly. "I've managed to save up for a down payment and will take a mortgage for the rest. It won't be a problem. You can continue living here rent-free as a thank you for helping us when we needed it." "But I don't think you can afford it," she said, skeptical. "I have a good credit score, so I can easily qualify for a loan. Rick can't because his debts have crippled him. I'm the only one in a position to buy a house. Wouldn't you be happier if the house stayed within the family?" "Yes, that is true, Liza. I guess it would be better if I sold it to you." "Think about it, Natalie. You need the money, and I need a house. It's the best deal for both of us. All you have to do is agree to sign everything over to me, and I'll take care of the rest." "Okay, let me think about it," she said. "Sure, but I have one request. Can you not tell Rick about this? I want to surprise him with the house on our first anniversary. I see. Okay then. I won't tell him. I'll get back to you once I've thought about your offer. Natalie went back home while I headed to work, feeling excited about the prospect of buying her house. Rick loved his mom's house because it was spacious and comfortable, and I was sure he would appreciate what I was doing. Even if he didn't, he could buy another house once his credit improved. Our separate assets and the prenup ensured that he had that option. I continued with my routine, eagerly awaiting Natalie's decision. Things were normal for a few days, though Rick seemed even more distant than before. I knew he was stressed about our living situation, which likely contributed to his mood. I tried to comfort him and offer hope, but he just got angry and told me to leave him alone. Hurt, I chose not to argue and held on to the hope that everything would improve once I secured Natalie's house. Even if she said no, I was determined to find another house for us. Then everything changed when I stumbled across some papers. You can guess where this is going. They were divorce papers. I was in complete disbelief as I read through them, confirming they were meant for me. Rick had hidden them in his office bag, which I had opened to retrieve his lunchbox. Shocked and hurt, I didn't confront Rick immediately. Instead, I decided to snoop through his phone, suspecting he might be having an affair. Desperate for answers, I found texts between him and his best friend. The things he wrote about me were awful. He called me useless, lazy, and a bad wife, all because I wasn't wealthy enough to buy him a house. Apparently, some rich girl had been flirting with him on Facebook, making him believe he could do better. Realizing my marriage was over, I knew I wouldn't leave silently. I wanted to make Rick pay for his actions. That day, I thanked God for making me sign the prenup. It had saved me more than it had saved Rick. The next day, Natalie secretly met with me and agreed to sell the house. I thought about it, Liza. You're the best option right now. I can't make next month's mortgage payments, so you need to take over it as soon as possible, she said. Sure, Natalie. You can draw up the papers and I'll get a lawyer right away. I don't want to wait either. Our anniversary is only a few weeks away. Yeah, I remember. That's why I made the decision quickly. I've already told my lawyer to prepare the papers. You'll have them soon. And just like that, I bought Natalie's house. It was a great house, and I wanted to get back at Rick for what he was planning to do. I had plans of my own that would make him regret his actions. I was breaking inside because the man I loved was planning to betray me in the worst way possible. But I didn't let it show. Rick didn't bother to care. He had already checked out of the marriage and was enjoying the attention of the rich girl on Facebook. I slowly stopped caring, waiting for the house papers to be signed. Once that was done, I simply wanted my revenge and to rid myself of my horrible husband as soon as possible. Thankfully, I was able to get the house in my name before our anniversary. On that day, I didn't bother with any celebrations. I didn't want to waste money on a failing marriage. While some might arrange parties and confront their husbands publicly, I couldn't afford to spend any extra after putting all my money into the down payment for the house. So I treated it like a normal day. I wished Rick a happy anniversary, but he grumbled something in return and left. The confrontation didn't happen until the evening when we both returned home from work. To my surprise, Natalie had invited a few family members to celebrate our anniversary. I guess she was feeling generous after receiving money for the house. She cooked some food and looked genuinely excited for us. I was touched by this gesture, but Rick immediately got angry. What is this? What's going on? He snapped. I just invited family so we could celebrate your anniversary today. It is your first anniversary after all. I saw that you two didn't plan anything, Natalie explained. That wasn't necessary, Mom. Liza didn't plan anything because she never has money, and I didn't plan anything because I'm not interested in celebrating our anniversary. This marriage has come to an end anyway, Rick retorted. What do you mean, Rick? Why are you saying that your marriage has come to an end? Natalie asked, confused. Rick ignored his mother and turned to me, looking me dead in the eyes. I knew this was when he would tell me he was leaving, and I was right. I don't think I can be in this marriage anymore, Liza. I'm going to leave you forever, Rick declared. Why, Rick? You can't just drop news like this on me and not tell me why, I demanded. The reason is very simple, Liza. You are an absolutely useless wife to me, he said coldly. Oh really, Rick? Tell me why you think I'm useless. You are not on my level, Liza. I have a great job, and you are just an embarrassment to me. You can't even help me buy a house. I don't want to be with someone who can't help me get the things I need, he sneered. It's not my fault your credit is bad, Rick. Why should it fall on me to get a house? I retorted. Because we're a couple. I knew you weren't rich, but I thought maybe you would be able to buy me a house at least. Now I don't even think you'll qualify for a loan. I can't stay with a woman like that when I can do so much better. I will at least find a woman who has the means to have her own house, Rick replied. So you're leaving me because I'm not rich enough for you, is that it? Yes. I don't care what you think, Liza. Don't try to stop me. I won't be with you. I'm done. Very well then, Rick. If that's what you think, go ahead and leave. I will happily grant you a divorce. Good. You need to move out soon then, because this isn't your house. Mom, you need to tell her to leave and find her own place, Rick said, turning to his mother. Rick expected Natalie to agree to kick me out, but he hadn't anticipated her reaction. She looked pale and startled, shaking because she knew exactly how much Rick had messed up. She was the only one who knew that I had bought her house a week earlier. The papers had been finalized, and now I was the sole owner of the house. So despite Rick's demands, Natalie couldn't kick me out. Natalie remained quiet, not saying anything at first. Rick kept insisting she needed to tell me to leave, and that's when I spoke up. I think you're barking up the wrong tree, Rick. Natalie cannot actually kick me out. Why the hell not, Liza? This is her house, so she can kick you out. No, Rick, it's not her house anymore. It's mine. I bought it from her last week. I am the sole owner of this house now. I revealed, watching the color drain from Rick's face. Actually, you're wrong about that, Rick. This house doesn't belong to her anymore. What do you mean? My mother is the owner of this house. Nope, she's not the owner anymore. I am the new owner of this place. What nonsense are you spewing, Liza? This cannot be your house. It is my house, Rick. If you don't believe me, why don't you ask your mother? Mom, what nonsense is Liza saying? Did you give her this house or something? Natalie looked too afraid to say anything. She remained frozen while the rest of the guests looked on. Rick was absolutely sure that the house was in no way mine, so he kept hounding his mother for an answer. After a while, Natalie meekly said, "Yes, it's true. This house is hers now." No, that cannot be possible. Did you suddenly grow charitable and give away the house to Liza, Mom? No, Rick. I don't need anyone's charity. I bought the house all by myself. I don't believe it. You cannot afford this house. You cannot even afford the down payment. What would you like to say to that, Natalie? You're wrong, Rick. Liza has actually bought the house from me. We finalized the papers last week, and she was planning to surprise you today with the news, but it looks like you have ruined it. Natalie confirmed what I had told Rick, and his eyes went wide with shock. He couldn't believe that I was able to save up and buy the house. He had clearly underestimated me and was proven wrong. When the realization dawned on him, he immediately tried to change his tune. Oh wow, that was a great surprise, Liza. I didn't know that you were saving and planning on buying Mom's house. I can see that, Rick. Natalie's right though. You have completely ruined my surprise. No, we can still celebrate. Celebrate what, Rick? Our divorce or your exit from my house. What are you saying, Liza? You wanted a divorce, right? You will get it. I won't be in a marriage where my husband wants to leave me because I'm not rich. Come on, Liza. I was mad and said some stupid things. We can talk about this and get past it. The main problem has been solved already. I don't think so, Rick. Besides, you went through all the hassle of secretly securing divorce papers. Too bad I found them out 2 weeks ago and prepared my own papers instead. Rick looked on while I drew some papers out of my work bag. I handed them to him, and he started to see what they were about. He was not happy when he saw that they were eviction papers. His hands shook, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes. Are these eviction papers? I thought you read what these papers are, Rick. Since you have a hard time reading simple English, let me confirm it for you. Yes, they are eviction papers for you and Natalie. You're kicking us out, Liza. But where will we go? Don't do this, Liza. Let's work this out. Don't make me laugh. Rick, you want to go find a rich girl, right? Get on with it. I'm sure she'll have a place for you to stay. I said things out of anger, Liza. Please don't hold it against me. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that you were working hard to get us a house. Nope. This is my house, Rick. You have no claim to it. Now that we are divorcing, we got a prenup, remember? Thanks for that. Now I have a house to myself while getting rid of a horrible husband like you. I said what I had to say and remained quiet. Rick absolutely went mad in panic and started to beg me to forgive him. He started to tell me how much he loved me and knew that he had messed up. Suddenly, staying with a no-rich girl was appearing lucrative to him. He was begging me to stay with him when a few days ago he was preparing for a divorce. He even made a show of tearing up the divorce papers in front of me. I simply laughed and told him that I could always file them myself, and that made him cry and fall down on the floor to beg for mercy. Natalie also joined her son in trying to convince me. To her, I was no longer an annoyance. She was really banking on the fact that I had offered to let her stay in the house rent-free. But now that her son and I were divorcing, that wasn't happening. I even prepared eviction papers in her name so that she could not throw a tantrum. I got them done on the day the house was transferred to my name. Natalie knew that the only way for her to live anywhere rent-free was to beg me to stay married to her son. But sadly for both Rick and Natalie, their wishes weren't coming true. In the next few days, Natalie and Rick continued to pester me to forgive Rick. Since family members were present when everything happened, they knew the truth about Rick. No one was willing to take them in after that. They even berated Rick for being such an evil man and left the little get-together early. Now that Rick's own family had turned their backs on him, he begged me for mercy, but he wasn't going to get any. I simply ignored them and kept reminding them that they had a month to move out. Rick and I got divorced, no matter how hard he tried to stop it, and Natalie and Rick had to move out of my house once their 1-month grace period was up. They tried their best to convince me, but I wasn't moved. Rick and I went for a mutual divorce because Rick couldn't afford to contest me in court. Since we had a prenup, the divorce was fairly smooth. I kept the house and got no alimony. Rick kept his debts but ended up homeless. He and his mother had to get an apartment together to save money. From what I have heard, neither of them is doing very well. I don't have any pity for Rick, but sometimes I feel bad for Natalie, who isn't as bad as him. Anyway, I have a house now and can finally live a good life without having a husband who constantly demeans me.